is good, everybody? You're listening to another episode of the Stay Tranquilo podcast, where we're going to help you stress a little bit less and enjoy a whole lot more. I'm here with my boy Kourtney. We'll get into how we know each other, but we got a really good one in today for you guys. I'm really happy. I know we've been trying to do this for
a while,
a minute already, so it's good, and I think the timing's awesome for this. So I'm pumped to have you on and get this going.
For sure.
Tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Kind of like what you got going on in your life right now, and we'll definitely get into how we know each other.
All right. I'll try to make sure it's not like information filled, right? So a couple things. I'm 1/3 of Alive Today podcast on all platforms. That's number one. Number two, I'm 1/3 of Alive Elite, which is my health and wellness company, where we focus on, like you said, like stressing less. So we do like to put our main focus on counseling, life coaching, aquatics, teaching people how to swim, as well as just aquatic workouts. Everybody can't lift weights. And then obviously the physical portion of working out, like coming to the gym, where we are now. And then I went to FIU, went to Coral Reef, like just Miami, born and raised, pretty much to the fullest. And I try to be tranquilo, bro. Try to be chill,
exactly.
Bro.
He's always definitely been that way.
For
I mean,
sure.
To give a little background and insight of like how we know each other. We, for a lot of people that know, Fit to Run in Dayland Mall,
right.
RIP, but it was that running store in the bottom of Dayland Mall,
right,
and
new section.
I think you were there before I got there, right? Or
I don't even remember, bro. I don't remember how. Maybe I was.
Because you knew Alecos, obviously.
Yeah.
And all. So Alecos was the one that got me the job there,
right.
And then we just had like a little squad there that worked there, and it was a good time.
We recognized BS from the get-go,
yeah.
And then just kind of hung out.
To be honest, Fit to Run though was as like crappy as a place it was.
Right.
The environment there and like the people that work there, like
for sure.
it was a cool work environment.
Yeah.
So
it was only like one person who nobody really got along with.
Of course, there's always that one guy.
But other than that, it was pretty cool. I always say like my best and worst job was Party City, because I literally had to do everything, but get paid like crap. And then I would put number two as Fit to Run.
That's how I felt. That's how I felt about Sports Authority. I worked at Sports Authority before.
Really?
And it was just like, dude, we had one manager that he was just like a pain in the ass. Like every single time I had a closing shift, because I would go to school from like till 3 o'clock, and then my shift would start at 4.
Right.
So go there, and then closing shift was literally moving every single thing on the peg and moving all the way to the front and putting a clip behind it.
Right.
How big is Sports Authority?
Of course.
So that was a pain in the ass.
For sure.
And then another thing was Sports Authority ended up closing.
Right.
And then I started to realize that every store that I work at ends up closing down. So I'm like, is it me?
Let's not let your manager now hear you say that.
Yeah, exactly.
You might be the death of shit.
I might be. That's the trend right now. But
wild.
so we've known each other for a couple years now. We've been wanting to do a podcast for a while. Like he said, he's got his own podcast called, is it Alive Today on Apple and Spotify, right?
Apple, Spotify. I think the only place we're not is like Tidal and SoundCloud.
Some random
stuff. Some stuff I don't even really.
So check out his podcast. Obviously we thank you guys for tuning into this podcast, and anyone on the live, awesome. Thanks for listening.
I forgot.
Yeah, I forgot too. But check out his podcast, and we're gonna get into a little bit more, because I want to get a little more into like what the Alive brand means, like kind of like what that message is, because I know there's a good message behind it.
Appreciate it.
And I think more people need to know about it, because like one thing to me that stands out about like your brand and you obviously is that you focus on like the whole picture.
Right.
It's not just just doing exercise and calling it a day after that. Like there's a lot more to it. You talked about like the mental aspect of things, and how some people have limitations, and you cater to those limitations. So tell people a little bit more of like kind of like your motive behind why you started, I guess, Alive, and then like kind of how like what the message behind it is.
So the first thing before I even started training people, I was coaching track. And it was one of those things where I felt the most comfortable Like even now, like I love training people like individually, but like coaching is like the biggest thing because you actually get to take nothing and turn it into something or the best thing that it can be.
Right.
And I mean, you know how when you're starting something, you don't really know what to call it. So I went through.
We were just talking about that.
I went through a plethora of names. Like I went through active and like, bro, I don't even remember like some of the whack. So much crap. Like, and then one day, like I got this one client who she had just, two clients. She had just come off of being pregnant, and it was one of those things where she was like, I have to fight for my life because like I don't know where this is gonna like end up. And this shit has nothing to do with nothing but mortality rates for women of color and minorities, so Hispanics, black people, so on and so forth, is extremely high in this country.
Right.
So for her to already have gone through a traumatic experience and then seek help after that, it was one of those things where I was like, okay, like you're just fighting to be alive. And then it was one of those things where
that switch in your head clicked.
Some of this stuff, I don't know, can we curse on it?
Yeah.
Okay, 100%. Some of the shit. Okay, I just want to make sure.
Curse as much as you want.
So some of the shit that we say ends up sticking with people longer than it sticks with us.
Right.
So it was one of those things where I was trainer, and then boom, alive, she said it back to me, and I was like, oh damn, like I like that. She was like, nah, like you said that to me.
Right.
I was like, all right, cool. Like,
well, sometimes you gotta like hear yourself while you're talking to the other person.
And bro, I'm one of those people like I can do a lot of things off impulse.
Right.
So like I'll know what can work, but I'm like, you know what? If I just try this and just do it. See how it goes. Right. So like that impulse, like I'll say a lot of things, I'll do a lot of things, and I'll know what I'm talking about, but I'll just try to like switch it up so like everyone can understand. Everything's a teachable moment. So you never want to leave or go to sleep at night or whatever without having learned at least one thing.
Something from that.
So I always try to make sure I teach like the most complex things in the most simplest ways. But when somebody gives me something back that I taught them, I'm like, oh shit, like I did say that.
Yeah, it came back around.
So that's pretty much where the name Alive came from. I brought it to my partners and they were like, yo, like let's deal with that, like, you know. And honestly, like the name, I see it continuously evolving. So like Alive Elite is the name now, but then Alive Training and Performance might be the name in the future. Right. And that's one thing.
Because Alive could branch off to so many different things.
Exactly. So that's one thing like me and Kenny were talking about like a couple years ago, like ATP. Because ATP is one of the most readily things in your body that you need to like be active. Yep. So I was like, dang, like maybe I should like, but I also want to make sure like it doesn't become a whole separate entity just yet. Right. For the simple fact that I want it to kind of take off where it is. And I see like, you're like, what? I want to take off where it is because I want people to understand we're all living, but we're all not alive. Like where you are in your perspective of life is very different. Mm-hmm. So before I change it to something, I want this concept to be like felt. And then we'll go to the next one.
I like that.
So like you said, I always see the whole picture, and I want.
And I like to kind of like feed off of like what you just said, that statement of like we're living but we're not alive. Right. You know, like and the way I perceive that statement is like, so we're going through the day to day. You know, we're going through life. Absolutely. You know, we wake up, we make breakfast, we go to work, we go to school. It's routine. But are we really awake? Are we really alive? You know, like we're just going through the motions. Right. What does that mean? Exactly. You know? And to me, one of the like my thing is like I don't want to leave this planet, this life, you know, with one regrets, but two saying like, did I live the life that I really wanted to live? And part of being alive is like doing everything in your power to live the life the way you want to, like on your terms, on what you want, because the limitations that we create on ourselves is what kills us. Right. That's how I look at it.
Limiting beliefs. Who says that? Right. Limiting beliefs is one thing that Tony Robbins always preaches about. And 1,000%. It's pretty much learned fear or learned behavior that's not of our inner being.
External forces that you're just saying this is how it is. Right. This is how I'm supposed to think.
It's how it is because that's what our parents have taught us. Yep. That's what our friends.
Yeah. External.
You know what I'm saying?
Like, our environment growing up.
Imagine if every idea you ever had was always given a instead of a go for it.
Exactly.
So you will always be like to your most amazing ideas, and now you just gave it 10% less value than what it was initially. So that's one thing that like you said before, living the life that you deserve or the life that you want to live. If I were still working at some of the places that I was working at, number one, I wouldn't make as much money as I do right now, and number two, I wouldn't be as happy as I am. I'm able to do what I want to do on a daily basis. Bro, would you believe I work like 4 hours a day?
Yeah.
And
crazy.
I make 2 times the amount of money that I was making working for somebody else. I put my own value on the things that I appreciate, which is my time and my knowledge.
Time is the most valuable thing.
And we see that now in this pandemic. So it's like, okay, we get our time back, but people are still shitting on it.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, like, being alive is not just being active, it's the social aspect. It's the life aspect of just being okay with the choices that you made. You know what I mean? So that's one of the biggest things that I want to get across with the entity that is Alive Elite before it does change and evolve into something else, you know?
Right.
So
and how long has it been that you've been doing Alive now?
I want to say
like a couple of years.
It's been a couple of years. Like before actually like buying the LLC and buying the name and the entity, probably 4 years in total.
Okay.
But like if you go to like Sunbiz, it's probably like 2018, 2019, something like that. So it's only been probably 2 active years.
Yeah, because you had a vision of like what you wanted to create, and then to me, at least, like when I started this, it was like I had a vision of what I wanted to do, right? I didn't know exactly what I wanted to get out of it, or what the outcome of it. But
all of that evolves as you go, and that's one thing. Like I had a podcast on Alive Today where we were like just start. Right. The whole podcast was about just start, and we just named a shitload of things. Like if you want to start a business, start. If you want to get a car, start. Find out, like everything's on Google, everything's on YouTube, like Anwar said. Like, just
everything is on YouTube.
Everything on YouTube.
I learned how to do this podcast through YouTube.
On YouTube, right? And guess what? Once you found out, you just started.
Exactly.
Why? Because if you would have waited, somebody would have, number one, taken your idea.
Yep.
Because once the idea is out in the atmosphere, it's gone.
It's gone, yeah. Someone said, hey, damn, that's a good idea. I'm going to maximize
right.
off
Or,
of that.
I don't know where this idea came from. It's because you spoke it into existence and now it's in somebody's mind.
Yep.
So boom, if you would have waited, now it's somewhere. It might
floating in the universe
and
for someone to grab.
It might not have evolved to this, but it would have evolved into something, and now you're like, dang, I waited instead of just starting.
No, it's true. I think because one thing, and I think more now than ever, because of this whole coronavirus and all that, is like the unknown, and people are scared of that. Like going back to what you were saying about like the whole fear thing, and how much of an impact it has on our everyday life, when we live with that fear. But taking that kind of like leap of faith and just saying like, don't look 5 years ahead from now of like what could happen. Obviously you want to envision, you want to have a goal of like, this is what's going to go down, and I want to have a successful company, and I want to have a successful brand, and yada yada yada. But when you're so fixed on that, you're lost on what you're doing right now. Like this moment right here, I know I'm here with you, and we're providing a value to people out there. It could be one person, but I know that trickles off to 2-3 people, and then your audience trickles into 2-3 people,
exactly.
and like that's the impact. That's why we do what we do.
Absolutely.
It's not just for the monetary or anything like that.
For sure.
It's because we know that we have the time and the capabilities of impacting people through whatever our experiences.
No, for sure. It's funny that you said that. People who do podcasts who aren't involved with like big companies already, they're probably not gonna see that monetary value until like 5 years from now.
At least, yeah.
So you have to love putting out content in order for you to see the value in it, in order for monetization to come back to it. Like, bro, I put out like, I wanna say 48 episodes. And I looked at like Anchor the other day and I was like, dang, like it's only $15.
Yeah.
But then I was like, fuck it, like,
that's $15 that you never made before.
Right, like that's $15 for like an hour. Like, bro, somebody somewhere is making a penny.
Exactly.
Somebody somewhere is not making anything, and I'm putting out content to
that's
people.
Valuable to someone, and hey, you make a couple bucks from it.
Right?
Sick.
Why not?
Yeah,
why
exactly.
not? So it's one of those funny things about podcasts, but.
And I know obviously podcasts are big, and you started off like you said, you were a cross country coach. Right. What made you want to like venture off of like I don't want to just do training. I understand like the power behind like the mindset and providing value through like advice through the swimming, what made you branch out? Because obviously this was based off of like, you were an athlete.
Right.
And you knew what to do there. So what was it that was like, you know what, there's a little bit more to it than just
So, one thing that's big in conversation right now is privilege. White privilege, black privilege, female privilege, male privilege. And one thing that's big in conversation, or that gets swept under the rug, I would say, is athlete privilege. So people think athletes have it made. If you go to a college, a high school, the professionals, these athletes have it made. They get to walk into class late, and they get to like not turn in assignments and shit like that. Remember the big campaign, I want to say a year or two ago, was shut up and dribble. And then LeBron switched it to like, we're not gonna shut up. Whatever his anti-campaign was. But it was one of those things where just because you are a certain type of person, people will look at you in a certain type of light, and it's very monolithic. You never want to get put into a box. So I say all of that to say, like, coaching track and coaching cross country and coaching athletes in general, I saw a lack. And the lack was the social aspect of it. Outside of sports, who are you? You know what I'm saying? Like, people are always gonna look at LeBron and Jordan as
people that have played sports their whole life, that they kind of lose that identity.
Right.
That happened to me. I played sports my whole life, and then I didn't know what the hell is out there besides that.
You can go to a 5-star athlete. We have 5-star athletes coming here all the time, and it's like, what do you want to do? I'm gonna make it to the NFL.
Of course.
What happens after that? What happens after your first contract? Because 80% of the guys get a first contract, but 100% of them barely, not even 100, that's too high a percentage, but 20% barely make it to their next contract.
Exactly.
So after that first 4 to 5 years of making it to the NFL, making it to the NBA, who are you after that contract? You're gonna be a millionaire or a 100,000aire. And that's why they say a lot of people end up going broke. Because you don't know who you are, because now you've been given all this money, you've been living this lifestyle, and now it's been taken from you because you had no plan.
You had no identity. That was your identity.
Right, that was your identity.
So once it's gone, that's it. There's nothing else.
So the social aspect is missing. So I realized, like, okay, with this business, let's have a life and guidance counselor come in, and let's just talk to these athletes while they're in school. So we're trying to we're working on, I can't say too much about it, but we're working on getting a contract with the county, and we're gonna come into these schools and not only show what the physical aspect of living this lifestyle is, but the social aspect. Because that's one thing about going to gyms like YouFit 24, like people like going to gyms to like get fit, but they go to gyms to see who's in there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like you go into the gym to see that fine chick with the Gymshark shit on. Like you go in there to see the fine chick with the freaking Alive gear on.
And then you're going through Kenny's laughing like, that's me.
For sure.
No, but and I think it's more than that too, because then you're going in there and you're lifting all this heavy weight and you're getting strong and you're getting big. That's awesome. Good. You're taking care of your body. But it's like, for who and for what?
For who and for what? And then you end up having that conversation with this random person like, hey, like, what do you do? But what if you can start that conversation before you see them for 2 or 3 months at a time? What if I told you, like, the first day you walk into the gym, you lift weights and you see someone and like, hey, can I work out with you today?
Right.
People are so socially awkward that they don't even know how to go ask someone how they're doing. And why? Because they're learning how to be robots in school. So if we can combat that, we'll teach kids how to be entrepreneurs right off the bat, just by having a conversation. Because everybody wants to be a doctor, a police officer, a lawyer, but they don't know that you can own the building that the lawyer rents out. You know what I'm saying?
It's perspective.
It's perspective, and now you're owning this one building with 10 offices in it, and then you're doing less than a quarter of the work that somebody else is doing. Just by one conversation. So that's pretty much what the social aspect of Alive is pretty much going to be teaching. That's just one of the social aspects. The other is just getting things off your chest. Imagine how many of us, there's 1, 2, 3,
speaking.
There's 5 men in here. What are some things that we haven't said to other men about what we're going through? That's another social aspect of fitness. And
It's
that's what's
mental
the
fitness.
mental fitness, and that's what's missing, and that's pretty much what the Alive brand is about on that
And
aspect.
I think it's awesome because think about sports right now, right?
Right.
I mean, they evolved physically, obviously.
Oh,
I mean,
crazy.
we're seeing some of the craziest athletes. Isaiah Simmons, to me, the kid from Clemson, is like the
Oh yeah.
the
He's a
epitome of being a beast,
He's a
right?
monster.
So obviously we've evolved in that realm, you know, of sports physically. But to me, the thing that's more important, and it's a thing that's starting to become very, very aware. Look at Kevin Love.
Right. Yeah, he's a really big mental health advocate.
Panic attack in the middle of a court.
Yeah.
The other dude from the Trailblazers, I'm forgetting his name right now. Same thing, deals with depression.
Really?
Yeah. So these are high-profile athletes.
Millionaires.
Millionaires.
Even, Kevin Durant, right? Kevin Durant.
Okay,
Kevin Durant had something too.
Kevin Durant's issue is different. So pretty much he's always been in a positive light to people.
Right.
And as soon as he started getting attacked negatively,
Oh, yeah.
he made the
He's very reactive.
He's very reactive. And imagine not being able to know how to like combat that with a positive reaction,
Right.
or just take it and say, maybe I do need to fix this negative thing about myself.
Exactly. It clicked something in his head that he was like, oh shit, what is this? This has never happened before.
If people hate on you, it's for a reason.
Yeah, you're doing something
You're
right.
doing something right, or you're doing something wrong.
Or wrong, yeah.
And if it's wrong or right, whatever that criticism is, write it down, evaluate
Debate
yourself,
yeah.
and then say, okay, maybe I should change this, or maybe nah, I'm gonna keep going with
Exactly.
it. And imagine being a millionaire, playing sports, doing what you love, and then having an anxiety attack in the middle of a court.
That's human.
Because all of these people
It just
are
shows they're not superheroes. They're not, you know, they're normal.
Like writing things down is so taken for granted.
Oh,
nowadays.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
one of
it's
the
not-
main
it's not
things
a
we
cool thing
teach.
to have a journal.
Of
Right,
course not.
right.
Again, it goes back to what he was saying, that we're taught, you know, men have to do this, you know, you can't be a certain way because it's not, you know, it's not tough, it's not manly, whatever it is.
Bro.
But we're all human beings at the end of the day, and whatever works for you, works for you.
Right.
And going back to what we were saying, these high-profile athletes are showing they're not invincible.
Right.
You know, they have their personal problems that they got to take care of,
Right.
and no one's made that a priority. Who's the guy there in the locker room making sure that dude's okay?
Right.
He's going every day to practice, screwing around with the other players.
Right,
Everything
right.
seems right, and then behind scenes, he's not. I mean, there's other guys how many guys have we seen that they drug overdose in the middle of the season?
Right,
And
for
they were,
sure.
and all these guys are like the guy from the Angels not too long ago. Everyone coming out, oh, he was the sweetest dude,
Yeah,
family
yeah,
man,
yeah.
all this. He had been getting pills from one of the trainers for over 2 years,
And
and
nobody
no one
knew.
had a clue.
Nobody knew.
He had a problem. Why? Because he never used his voice.
Right.
Only one other dude said something, and then that guy's not going to use his voice because that's
Right.
their connection between the
Right.
two. But that just shows how, like you said, the social aspect of athletics, I think,
Right.
is a legitimate problem, because athletics is this whole other
World.
thing.
It's a whole nother world
You got to
by
be
itself.
physical. You got to be mentally tough, but you forget that you're human and
Right.
you can have certain problems.
Right.
And I think that's huge that you're able to preach that on your platform, because I don't think enough. Kevin Love is now starting to be an activist
Yeah,
for that.
yeah.
And I think that's big time, because it's opening the door to the youth.
But imagine if he wasn't Kevin Love. Would
Exactly.
he have still been able to get that out there as efficiently as he's doing it? Because we're having a conversation about
Right.
it. But if he wasn't Kevin Love,
But you have to appreciate him because he's utilizing his platform.
no, of course. But I'm saying is, imagine if he was Kevin Love that worked at some office in the tech world.
Right.
He didn't have like a.
Who is he? Yeah. Who's gonna listen to
He didn't have a platform. Oh, you're just some random tech guy.
Exactly. Why am I gonna listen
So
to you?
why don't people? And I guess I know why, because they're always they want to be perceived in the right light.
Right.
But why doesn't everybody do it? And it's because, imagine if you have 1.2 million followers. Imagine if you lost 30% of those followers
Because he spoke truth.
because you spoke truth. Truth can set you free, but it also messes with your pocket when you're used to living a certain way, or you're used to donating a certain amount. And it's like, you damn if you do, damn if you don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, a quick side note, we all know who Virgil is, right? The Off-White, whatever. Off-White brand.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, with everything that's going on in the pandemic, and I know I want to get back to like us, but I know we'll get there.
Yeah.
Virgil donated $50 to some like social justice, whatever, and he got killed on social media for it. But how many other people who killed him didn't donate to that same
I'm
fucking...
glad you brought that up because
like,
I say this shit all the time.
So it's like, and this is why I'm tying it back into the social aspect of things, right?
Yeah.
Mental health is so fucking important, but imagine how he feels now, like, damn, maybe I should have donated 50,000 instead of, but what if things aren't good on his end financially?
Exactly. Yeah,
So
you don't know his story. People are quick to judge and point
Right.
the fingers and
now
say something
he has
and
to
you don't know
write up
anything.
a I'm sorry because I didn't
That's
donate
insane.
enough because you guys didn't think it was enough.
No, same thing with like Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos donated during this coronavirus like
I think it was like
$1.2 million,
Yeah.
something crazy like that, and everyone's like, that's not enough.
not enough. You're a billionaire.
He's a billionaire. That's
People
like
don't know the difference between net worth and liquidity. Kylie Jenner donates $20 million. Like she has $100 billion in the bank,
Right.
but she doesn't.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
She can't sell stock.
Right.
She can't donate stock to coronavirus.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
People and again, what you said, the people that opened their mouth about that probably didn't donate.
They didn't donate
anything.
shit.
Didn't donate anything.
And all you did was donate a negative remark that doesn't turn into a physical value.
Yeah.
And now we still have kids who don't know who they are. Like come on, bro. Your dad is the biggest basketball player in the world and you still have an identity crisis. You know what I'm saying? Like,
It
so
just
now,
shows,
so
yeah.
now you want to go play soccer because you're afraid that you're gonna get judged to that high value of who your dad is or whatever. Like, I feel for like LeBron's kids. I feel for Dwayne Wade's kids. I feel for Chris Paul's kids.
And in some people's eyes, they're given the world.
They're given the world.
Their spotlight is so high. It's like, you know, they're tied to that identity. They're not. I don't know their names, like
Right.
Ronnie and whatever. But that just shows I don't even know their names.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? I just know them as LeBron James kids, as Dwayne Wade's kids,
Right.
and that's the label that they have.
Yeah.
So that's not. It depends, you know. Maybe they're strong enough to be able to hold that and figure that out. But
If you're under the age of 18, you shouldn't have to deal with that shit.
yeah,
When
it's
we
hard.
were all kids, bro, we were cartoons on fucking Saturdays.
Yeah.
Waking up late on Sundays and then going back to school on Monday to have a conversation about what you saw on Saturday. These kids now, yo, like you gotta go to, okay, I don't wanna say the kid's name, but the kid I was training today, speed training with me an hour and a half, then lunch. He's 16, 17 years old. After lunch, he has to go do hitting practice. After hitting practice, he has to go, like luckily school's out.
Yeah.
But he would have had to do like an hour, 2 hours of studying. His life is just, it's like, where do you have the time to go be a kid?
To be a kid and to figure out what else do you like besides this. You know?
On Sundays, he wants to go to the beach, but it's like, you gotta rest because Monday we start over, or Monday's school again.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's tough, and I just want kids to understand, and even adults. Yo, it's not all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah.
There are plenty of people who are better than Jordan that chose a different route because of the social aspect of things. Even though the money would have been amazing,
Yeah.
Jordan drinks fucking vodka every day. Have you seen the documentary?
Yeah. He's freaks.
It's crazy.
I didn't know that much about his gambling.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Don't believe everything you hear,
No, of
Exactly.
course,
but he
I
does
know,
gamble a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
But
So-
you're a
I think-
basketball assassin and nobody knows
And
you
you're-
outside
you're
of that.
outside of that.
So now you have to keep that competitive edge, and the only thing you can do now is gamble.
Yeah, exactly.
Like-
I mean,
Yeah, you're
I
right.
think
It's
too that it's like, you know, figuring out what it is, because it is hard, you know, like to figure out like who to be, what to be, and all that. It's just like, but like if you just break it down, you know, and put it into like little pieces,
Right.
it's like start off by just figuring out what in the world is it that you just like,
Yeah,
you know, and you may not know it, and it's not that easy to say, oh, but I like this, but I can't really make a job out of this, or if I like this, I can't be that, whatever
Right,
it is.
right.
But it's just like start off with that. What the hell makes you happy? You know, what the hell is the shit that you enjoy?
For sure.
And then going off of that, and then doing life experiences and figuring it out. You know, like I didn't know anything about a podcast. I didn't know anything about running a company. I didn't know anything about anything.
Right.
You know, but experience is what taught me. You know, it's the same thing. You didn't know how to run right off the bat. You had to
trash.
figure that
I
out,
was
and then
trash.
you didn't know if you even liked it. And then the more you did it, you're like, damn, I could do this.
Well,
I like the people around me.
Running's different, and I was actually gonna allude to that. Growing up, it was about football. My cousin is a professional football player.
It's crazy because football and track
They-
somehow
they-
always
yeah,
commingle.
Right.
Yeah.
So like growing up, it was about football. Like my cousin's a professional football player now. Shout out to him. But one thing that he would have probably never known is I was thrown into football because he was so good at it.
Exactly.
So they expected me to be just like him.
Or better.
And I'm good at it, but I didn't have the passion behind it, so I didn't put as much effort into it. And growing up, I knew like if you weren't him, you weren't good enough. Like my people still talk about him to this day. So it took for me to get all the way to high school to find out there were other sports.
Yeah.
Like I could never dribble with the left, so basketball wasn't it. And then here comes track. One of my coaches, he was here the other day. He works for UM. He was like, "Yo, like I don't know what I was thinking having you run out there, but I was like, bro, you saved my life. Because if it wasn't for you throwing track at me, I probably would have been at Walmart. And no disrespect to the Walmart workers,
right.
But track got me to college. Track got me that extra little bit that I needed, and through track, I was able to learn all the things that I do now. I was able to learn business, the life lessons,
like the discipline, all that.
Yeah, absolutely. So man,
it's like you can't get, obviously like for anybody that they've done something their whole life. There's a phase where it's always going to come to an end, whether it's at the professional level, in high school, whatever it is.
Right.
It's just like being able to pull whatever it is that you can pull from that life experience, and then moving on to whatever's next. Feeding off whatever you've been doing for the last 2-3 years.
Right.
And sometimes you got to start freaking fresh, dude.
And this is how I go full circle with the business, right? So we already know like it's a physical thing that you have to have being an athlete.
Yeah.
There's a mental aspect that you need to have being an athlete and a regular person. But what happens when it's over? You can't work out or train your body to that limit anymore.
Right.
So here comes the pool. So you get like, honest to God, I just learned how to float last Sunday.
What?
I just learned how to float last Sunday, and that's one of the major parts of the business. So I have a business that teaches you how to like swim and all that stuff. I know how to swim to save my life,
right.
But I can't swim for like leisure. So whatever, we go to the beach, I'm like, you know what, let me just give it a shot. I lean back, throw my head back, I'm like, oh snap, like I'm floating, you know what I'm saying? And it was one of those fulfilling things. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Imagine those people who want to continuously work out once their career is over with, but they can't push their body to that limit anymore.
Right.
You can get in a pool and do all the same exercises. There are bars that you can take in a pool and you can do power cleans. There are like water dumbbells that you can still do.
Yeah.
Yo, like
and
there's
it's
a
good
whole
because
other
it's easier
life.
on the
It's
joints.
easier on the joints. And like I'm trying to like tell people like, yo, listen, I know a guy who owns a pool business that makes more money than LeBron, but kids don't know that. So it just full circle,
the illusion
bro.
is just that
you need to.
You gotta be an athlete. You gotta be a celebrity. You gotta be a TikToker.
Hey, listen. I don't hate on TikTok.
No, I don't hate on TikTok either. But that's like the illusion that's out there.
Right.
I definitely don't hate on it.
There are 5 professions. There's Instagram. There's TikTok.
Yeah.
There's athletics, judge, police. You know what I mean? Like it's the basic stuff like that. So
being a business,
owning a construction company. You don't have to know shit about construction to be owning. You know what I'm saying?
We live like in a world where like you could be your own boss. You could be your own like clean poor restoration. There's a guy there that he has a legitimate business,
right.
And he's paying employees and helping a family. Like that's the lens that you got to look at because there's these monster companies, and yes, they could be good or bad, right? There's always good and bad in everything.
Right.
But at the end of the day, there's a family that's coming home every single day with food on their table because that company is supporting them.
Yeah.
There's hundreds of employees. They're being taken care of.
Right.
So,
and
like you said, it comes back full circle.
This company, you probably can't see it on these cameras,
right.
But this company, Clean Pro, they make hella money.
Really?
Hella money. They have like 3-4 trucks that you see here, but then they have probably 10 trucks every morning loading up with equipment to go and clean out mold and fire and whatever. Like yo, that's a company that like someone owns.
Yeah. And they have a legitimate business.
It's a legitimate business.
And that guy's making money, supporting his family.
Supporting multiple
families.
Multiple families.
You're right. You don't have to be, this high profile anything to live a life that you want.
My uncle he worked at FIU for about 10, 15 years. Just retired a couple years ago. He went to a trade school, didn't go to college. He went to trade school, learned how to fix air conditionings, and he was the head guy at FIU. Anytime an AC broke in any building, he was the guy that they called to come up with a plan and then give it to somebody else, and then they did it.
Oh wow.
You see what I'm saying? Like these are jobs. Yo, he lives in the back of freaking Kendall, big house. But these are jobs that like it's not glorified.
Right.
Somebody has to
no one's praising that man.
Right. And it all started with, hey, it's a conversation. I don't think I'm gonna be able to go pro. I don't think I'm gonna be able to sustain 4 more years of school. What can I do? I can take up a trade that's gonna take 1 year, start from the bottom, work my way up, and then boom, now after however long it takes you to get through high school, however long it takes you to get through this trade program, however long it takes you to get to probably 3 to 5 years of working in that field for 20 years of making $200,000. Like, I'd rather $200,000 over 20 years than $5 million 1 year.
Sure.
Because I know there's like you can sustain that.
Yeah, exactly. You're having growth throughout that time. You get that $5 million. You could spend that $5 million just as fast and probably even faster than how you made it. You know. So it's like you gotta figure out at the end of the day what it is that's gonna build a sustainable lifestyle for you.
Right.
That's gonna keep you, for lack of a better term, alive.
Alive.
Yeah.
That's the entire point. That's the entire point. Like. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much the entire point of the brand is just teaching people how to be alive and not just survive. You know what I'm saying?
I like that.
I want you to thrive.
Yeah.
I want you to like be alive and thrive in it.
That's a good line right there.
You know what I'm saying? That's just the point, bro. Like I never, like you said, I don't want to leave this earth with regret.
Exactly.
My dad, and I'll pass it back to you. My dad lives near this old folks community, and I go there at least once or twice a month just to have conversation with them, whatever. And one of the ladies was telling me like, yo, while you're in your 20s, just live it up. Because I regret not being able to start something. I regret not being able to marry the person that I was really in love with because I was afraid. Just a bunch of regret, and I never want to be that old fuck saying I regret not.
Why the hell didn't I do that?
Yeah. So thrive, and it might hurt now. Though don't get it twisted.
Of course, there's gonna be pain points in it, but it's like what you're trying to go for.
Where you're going is way more valuable than where you are, or the circumstances that you'll be in for a moment.
Exactly.
So that's pretty much where I am with the business, and that's pretty much what I want to teach going forward. So once we get into schools, man, shit's gonna be
it's big. The education system needs help. There's I don't think it's super flawed because obviously I appreciate it, and I think it's
for sure.
It's formed a lot of good.
That's a whole nother conversation.
But I do think that it needs direction and better better voices, I guess, behind the education. But before we close it off, obviously sensitive times, and I know we wanted to get into it. So obviously with all that's going on with the Black Lives Matter, I wanted to definitely get like your point of view on what's kind of going on, and your perspective of just everything that's kind of like unfolded from beginning to end. Not right now. This has obviously been something that's been going on. And obviously now more than ever, it's just come into like a lot more life.
I've never been more afraid in my life than I am right now.
And why's that?
I've never felt like I've had a target on my back ever until, like, even when the whole, like, and it sucks to say, like, even when the whole Trayvon Martin thing happened a couple years ago, I was like, dang, like, it sucks. But, like, that's kind of like an isolated thing. And I always try to, like you said, starting on the podcast, I always try to see the entire picture. African Americans make up just under 20% of the population in America. And if you look at the amount of deaths that we sustain as a culture, it's a very small percentage. Why? Because we're a small percentage of the population.
Right, ratio.
But any percentage higher than 1% is too much. Why? Because now it's not an isolated thing. It's more common than anything. So, you're thinking like, oh, that's in Florida, but that's Central Florida. That's not Miami.
Right.
That's Minnesota. That's not.
It's not here.
And then
that's
when
the wrong lens to look at it.
And then when you look at the amount of things that go seen on camera, you're like, damn, like how many things haven't been reported?
Yeah.
So now I'm like, damn, like I feel like there's so much that we don't know about the policies, and that's why the political aspect of things is being so exploited now. Like people are looking at the presidential like election like, wait, how come all you have to do is be 35 and a natural born citizen of the country to be able to run for president?
Right.
There are no other requirements. Maybe high school diploma, but you don't have to go to college in order to be a president. You don't have to study politics to be a president.
Yeah, anybody
Anybody
There's
can
not
be a
much that
president.
goes into it. Obviously, we have the right to vote for these people,
Right.
so we play a part
But
in
we
it.
should also have a right to up.
But we
the
can filter out. We can
requirements.
filter out because
Right, and
America is not very educated in choosing the right person.
And that's on the presidential scale. That's big. Let's go smaller. What are the requirements to become a police officer? What are the psychiatric things that you have to pass in order to become? Because people are afraid of me. You know what I mean? Like if you didn't know me, well, you know me for years, but if you didn't know me and you saw me and you saw my homeboy walking here, like shit, like are we really in the hood?
Yeah.
Like where are we? You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately,
but the problem is people do look at it in that lens.
that's what we go through. So I told a story on my IG Live like a couple nights ago where a couple years ago, I was not even a couple years, 10, 15 years ago, I was like 16 and I was walking in the mall and this lady looked back and she saw me. She clenched her purse, grabbed her child and pretty much ran out of the way. And these are some of the things that we have to go through. So imagine somebody like that putting on a badge every day.
Right.
And now they see this guy who allegedly was trying to forge a check, or a kid with a black hoodie on. Cool, we know it's hot as fuck in Florida, but guess how you don't get your skin burned? You put on long sleeves. You know what I'm saying?
It's true.
So he put on a hoodie to walk to the store and come back. This other lady got her door kicked down because they went to the wrong house.
She was sleeping.
She was sleeping, and her husband got arrested because he shot at people he didn't know.
No, they were, yeah.
But they were shooting at him first. So it's just these things that like, we're always painted negatively, but nobody's ever asking us, hey, like, y'all good? Because we see you're climbing up a hill with 50-pound weights on your back. Like, social aspect of my business. Nobody's saying like,
Yo, like what's going on?
let me hold that for you while you take a breather and then put the weight back on. Like, we don't want, like, and this is just me specifically, I don't want anybody to make things easier for me.
Of course.
I just want an equal playing field. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's privilege in every, there's white privilege, black privilege, Latino privilege, but there's also a struggle in each one of those privileges. How come the only people who don't have privilege or who don't struggle is white America? And that's just one thing that we have to deal with. Like, the laws were never made for all of us to succeed. And there's only so much and so many of us who can. So it's just very stressful, and I hate having this target on my back. And yeah, man, I cried the other day. Cause I was like, dang, like that guy could have been my uncle. That guy could have been my dad.
Yeah, because you relate to the situation. You say that could have been anybody at the end of the day.
Going to cash a check. Like, I'm going to get money from my family. And however it started, we saw how it ended. And whatever, bro. Like, there's just so many things that are wrong with our justice system. Like the Asian cop who could have just turned around and said, yo, stand up. He was already detained. Like, come on.
Anybody, I don't even know what the word sane, you know, whatever the term would be,
Right.
sees what's happening in that situation and has to step up and
Right.
stop. And to me, the
They
biggest,
were too passive. There was no action taken.
but to me, and it goes back to something that we talked about in this podcast, it's like the alive aspect. Like,
Right,
I'm literally
right.
alive here. It's like
Right.
aware, like you realize exactly what you are doing, or are you so dead
Right.
inside
Right.
that you don't realize what the hell you're doing?
Right.
You
Or
know?
you're afraid to speak up against your own people. Because now, and I can't say that it's never happened, but if I speak up against you and we're in the same office, I can get blackballed from certain things. But if I get blackballed from that, at least one person lived.
Right.
why does this guy why is he not on desk duty after 11 or 12 cases where he's been, he's done this before. He's been overly aggressive with people, whether they're white, black, or whatever. He has too many,
Right, his track record shows that he shouldn't be somebody.
This was bound to happen. And it's like, and this is where policies come in, and I'll leave it at that.
Exactly, yeah.
The policies that they have are very gray, and it's not black and white.
But that's how America is structured. It's crazy.
Right. And
there's so many loopholes.
And that's where you can get away with a lot of stuff and make $1 million, or you can fail and be in the negatives.
Right.
So their policies state excessive force can be used in certain circumstances. So whatever, let's just say he was resisting arrest, but you have two people, one on his legs, one on his back, he's already handcuffed. What's the point of his knee being your knee being in his neck?
On his neck. None.
Well, zero. But the gray area in that policy is he's still resisting, or he still has a way of getting to us.
Right, but that's them just trying to find a reason to defend the problem.
All you have to do is move 2 inches south of his neck, and now he might have like a cracked something opposed to a broken neck, which causes him to die on the spot. Cool. And then people are like, oh, all the people that were filming, why didn't they do anything? Because there's 5 cops there.
Right. Who's to say that they're not going to do the same thing to them?
Everyone else was black except for the one white lady. So what if one of the black guys runs up and pushes the cop off? Now he got to take 2 bullets to the chest. So it's like, you're damn if you do, damn if you don't.
No, exactly. There's no one winning in that.
There's nobody winning in the situation. So unfortunately, bro, like that's just the climate of the culture that we live in, and it's not gonna change.
You really.
It's
don't.
not gonna change.
But
all the protesting, all the looting,
I get it.
It's not gonna change. We can just start, we can just start the process now, but we won't see a change.
That's fair. I mean, to me, where we can see a change though, is in this right here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Where our circles,
right.
because going back to that same thing, like the ripple effect, like we do our part together in our circle, right? And we hope that in your circle, you're doing your part and you're being proactive, and however proactive to you is, it's like going back to what you were saying, being aware of what you're doing, and hopefully your intentions are good behind what you're doing. But I don't think, because my biggest problem is we look at it from like a global and national level,
right?
But we have to take the baby steps within our own circles, within our own people, within our families, within our friends, acquaintances, strangers. Like how you were saying, people go to the gym and they can't even say hi to the person across.
You literally have to.
They're already putting a label in their head. Like that's the structure that we have to change. We don't need politics to change everything.
Right.
We don't have to wait for the politicians to do everything, or our president or anything like that.
Right.
We don't need that.
Right.
We can do it, It starts with how we carry ourselves on the daily and how we treat the other people around us,
Right.
You see someone treating a black person incorrectly, speak up and say something to that dude, But step up and say, hey, yo, this is not cool, this is not how it works.
The common misconception with that is he deserves it, she deserves it. They must have done something. So you just keep going.
Right.
We're so numb because we've already seen the movies where the black guys have the bandana on and the gold teeth. And
they're painting the picture.
Yeah, so it's like
they're not giving a fair chance.
It is what it is, and it's unfortunate, and that's why it's never going to change, because that role is always going to exist. That role in movies is always going to exist. It's starting to change a little bit with like the bad white boy, but it's being. The difference between it is the bad white boy is hot, it's sexy, it sells. The angry black guy with it's not sexy.
The connotation.
You know what I'm saying? So, and that's why it's not gonna change.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
As much as we want it to, as much as the conversation is starting, as
Right.
much as the looting and the rioting and the protesting, we're being heard, we're being seen. But what steps are?
What's actually coming out of it?
What's going to come from it?
What's the result from it?
So I mean, I would love for even Trump, like as much as he's a dick, I would love for him to come up with a black agenda that states this is going to change while I'm in office for the next 4 years. I'm not guaranteed to vote for you, But at least
do something to
do
show that
something.
you're proactive
Right.
on what's going on.
And you know, that's my take on it. It sucks, but let's just keep the conversation going.
Keep the conversation. It's good to have those hard conversations too.
Let's not wait for somebody to die. You know,
exactly. It
to
shouldn't
have
have
the
to get to that
conversation.
point for
Be
someone.
fine and be human. Just be human.
Yeah. If
Doesn't matter. We're all pink on the inside.
right,
That's
if
the
you,
way.
it goes back to what I was saying before, right? If you evaluate yourself, things like this wouldn't happen. If you were talking to somebody about what's going on inside of you, things like this wouldn't happen because you would be more understanding. Like, hey, like, were you really trying to forge a check?
Exactly.
And if that person
It's
lies,
complete assumptions 90% of the time.
right? If that person lies, then you don't take it personal. That's something wrong with them. And
Right.
guess what? It just made your job easier. Like if you still got to take them down, you take them down. But you're good on the inside that you did what was right to start out with.
Exactly. Have the conversation after whatever that conversation is.
Right. Right. So, you know, less,
Yeah.
a little bit less action, a little bit more talking. So a little bit more understanding.
To me, yeah, and it's
Communication and
understanding is big
right.
because on the way here, I was like, that was one of the things I was like, I think people literally just need to be more understanding and aware of what's going on. But we'll get there.
Communication, understanding, and then we take action.
And then we take action. Yeah, exactly. Because then you're just flying blind.
Right. You're right.
But
Oh man.
all right, my man. Yeah, I appreciate you for being on. I think this was a fucking sick episode, bro.
Let me see that shirt. Live shirt. Love it.
Yeah. So
This is just one of
to
several.
obviously you have Instagram. So shout out the IG.
So you can follow me at the new Coach K, the new Coach _K.
And I'll tag all this so people
For
can follow
sure.
it too.
In my bio, you can go to aliveelite.com. We have a bunch of information on there about us. You can go to alive_elite on Instagram. And if you need somebody to talk to, bro, just reach out. And if I can't help you, like I'll point you in the right direction, man. Like this. Each one teach one, you know what I'm saying? So
Amen to that, bro.
yeah, that's me.
Awesome, bro. Yo, thanks guys for tuning in to another episode of the Stay Tranquilo podcast.
Stay Tranquilo.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram if you don't already at Stay Tranquilo. And if you want to follow my personal at the Tranquilo guy.
I was gonna say before you like close out.
Yeah, tell me.
The name Stay Tranquilo is so big because like if you know what Tranquilo means, you're like, yo, Tranquilo. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
we all need
just
a little
chill.
Tranquilo in our
Yeah.
life, bro. Like,
So I appreciate it.
and it ties into everything, bro. Because when you're coming from a place of tranquility from Tranquilo,
Right.
everything is a little bit more clear to you.
Yes.
You know, you could see things in a better lens. But that's another fucking
Right.
conversation. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and tune in next week for another episode.
Yo.
Hell yeah.
Good stuff, guys.